Welcome to the project. Tonight, the fallout as neo-Nazi hecklers disrupt an ANZAC dawn service attended by tens of thousands.
We also remember.
It's been condemned as un-Australian and disgraceful.
Like father, like son, Dr. Jack Mosley joins us. How he's carrying on his late great father's legacy.
Plus, Aussie TV icon Steve Vizard stops by the desk to talk about his brand new chapter.
And actor, activist, writer, she's done it all. Jameela Jamil joins us on her first ever trip down under.
We're live from the lands of the Kulin Nation with Georgie Tuddy and Susie Youssef. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Happy Friday. And happy ANZAC Day.
ANZAC Day.
Yes, to everyone.
I'm whispering.
Well, it's the reverence.
Yes, thank you.
Of course. Let's get into today's top stories. And 110 years after the Gallipoli landings, thousands have turned out to mark ANZAC Day in both Turkey and France. Those who gave their lives on the Western Front were honoured during the dawn service at Villers-Bretonneux. And as the sun rose over Gallipoli, Governor-General Sam Mostyn paid tribute to the original ANZACs.
The quiet, thoughtful mate, the hard worker, the loner, the larrikin. Look around you now and you see the same characteristics amongst us here today.
Oh, I just get chills every time you hear that music. And hundreds of thousands of Aussies attended ANZAC Day services back home as well. People also lined city streets across the country for ANZAC Day marches, cheering on ADF personnel, young and old. Veterans were clearly moved by the huge turnout.
It's awesome. I love the community. I love the support and to feel like people actually understand what we gave up to go.
And for many Aussie vets, today's service has a special significance, with April 30th marking 50 years since the end of the Vietnam War.
We will stand in Vietnam.
And with those words, war was declared.
In the jungles, mountains and river valleys of South Vietnam, the bloody insurrection does not pause.
After World War II, Vietnam was divided into the Communist North and the Democratic South. Fearing communism would spread, the US and its allies launched a full-scale war in 1965 to help the South. Before the war's end in 1975, 60,000 Australians had fought and more than 500 were killed.
There was no such thing as a rosy passage.
John Methven was 23 when he landed in Vietnam to serve in the 7th Battalion.
Our CO once said that it's the only occupation in the world that he knows where a man is expected to lay down his life as part of his duty.
For the past 4 decades, John's been a support network for struggling vets. In 1996, he also began displaying his Vietnam memorabilia.
The mate and myself decided that we'd build a little mobile museum and we'll just take it around parts of Victoria. It was out of my hands from there, it just kept growing.
It's since become the National Vietnam Veterans Museum, a place some call the spiritual home of the Vietnam vet.
We noticed that it started to bring some of the diggers out of the woodwork, folks that didn't want to talk to anyone. We always try to have at least one vet on duty, and he can pick quite quickly if a vet comes in and starts to, obviously he's struggling, and we can talk to them.
John's work helping vets has seen him even awarded the Medal of the Order of Australia.
We're going home, we're happy!
For many vets, like Tom Good, the challenges of war didn't stop when they returned home.
One incident marred the proceedings.
When we were marching in, we had a minority of people spitting at us and throwing stuff, blood over us, and we were doing all sorts of horrible things. We were treated pretty shabbily for basically doing what your country wanted you to do.
Vietnam quickly became a flashpoint for the anti-war movement, with military conscription mobilising a generation of protesters.
Our country had this problem where they couldn't dissociate the troop from their feelings about the war. So as our diggers came home, they took it out on the diggers.
As public pressure grew stronger, Allied countries began pulling out of the war. Vietnam then unified under communism.
After a couple of hours' frantic work, the monument was toppled amidst great jubilation.
A lot of people had their sons taken away from them, never to come home again, by the drawing of a marble. Those sort of people obviously will never totally forgive.
While we'll never know the exact human toll of the Vietnam War, the estimates are staggering. 3.8 million people, including 2 million civilians, are thought to have died. Tom Good served on the 9th Battalion in 1969 in a team of 30 men. In just 9 months, 3 of those men were killed.
It was pretty hairy sort of stuff. You've got a battalion of 300 people behind you that are relying on whether you are being alert and doing your job. Big responsibility, high anxiety.
Many vets say that when they got home, they were left to fend for themselves.
They'd be told, for goodness sake, don't wear your uniform. Just head off, go home and just don't tell anyone you're a bloody soldier. Basically, that was it.
If you didn't talk about it and just hung on to it, you'd end up screwed, and some guys did.
When I went to school with, we joined the army the same day. We were trained together. He put a shotgun in his mouth and he pulled the trigger. That was one of the things that got me working in welfare and everything.
We will remember them, lest we forget.
This morning, tens of thousands of people attended dawn services around the country to remember those who served.
How are you, mate?
Service, yeah.
Oh, thank you for saying it. It's the crowd that make it, mate.
For Tom and John, ANZAC Day is always bittersweet.
It's an experience that never leaves you, and it's always there, but it's far enough behind that it's not interfering with your daily lives.
It is a good time to catch up with mates. It's a wonderful time for us, but it's also a time for me to remember a couple of my mates that didn't make it home, a couple of mates that suffered after badly. So I remember all that on ANZAC Day. It's important to me.
Gosh, listening to those men speak and seeing in their eyes how close those memories are, and just listening to Tom say then, you know, you don't talk about it, when we know how important it is for people to be able to speak and have community around them after trauma. It just, it doesn't get old seeing those images and just remembering how much they went through.
Well, also I think that's why ANZAC Day and days like this are so important, because obviously the veterans community is such a close-knit one. They have an intimate knowledge of what everyone has shared, but it's on days like this that you can remind them that community can be that little bit bigger.
And that we have a better understanding, as they were saying, that we can separate the war from those that were made to go and defend our country.
Yeah.
So, yes, we thank them for their service, absolutely.
Yes, and you're never alone. There was a beautiful package by Matt Bendel as well. And if you find yourself in need of help, crisis support is available 24/7 through Lifeline on 1311 14. And for veterans, help is always available as well through Wounded Heroes on 1300 532 112.
Time for a break. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the project.
Let's get to more of today's top stories. And a Queensland teenager has lived to tell the tale after being struck by lightning inside her Burpengary home. The 17-year-old Bloom Commode was struck when a lightning bolt crashed through the ceiling, setting her bedroom alight. She was awake at the time because she was scrolling on TikTok.
Yeah.
Bloom says there was a big bang and everything went white. Her father came to her rescue. Incredibly, she suffered only minor burns to her arm and leg.
Well, you say that's all that has happened, but we have an interview from her today with her dad. And look, we got some more details, but more importantly, we could be seeing the start of a brand new comedy duo.
It entered from my bone into my arm, and then it exited out my leg.
Out your butt.
It literally came out of my butt. It was so unexpected, and I feel great. I haven't slept though, but I feel better than I thought I would after getting struck by lightning. I want superpowers, and if I don't get them, that's going to be sad, but I'm going to go get a lotto ticket and see what happens.
She's feeling energised.
I am feeling... it was pretty shocking. I'm not going to lie.
Well done.
Well done. Nice move.
Yeah, no side effects at all. No side effects at all. Feel great.
Well, let's head overseas. And as world leaders arrive in Rome for Pope Francis's funeral tomorrow, his family has also made an emotional pilgrimage to St. Peter's Basilica, where his body is lying in state. Surrounded by the faithful, they wept as they spent some precious last moments with the 88-year-old pontiff. The Vatican now says almost 100,000 people have been to the Basilica to pay their respects. And if you can't beat them, join them. The Odeon Star Cinema in Adelaide has decided to lean into the disruptive chicken jockey craze. It scheduled a special screening on the Minecraft movie where patrons were allowed to throw popcorn about when Jack Black says those words.
Chicken jockey!
Do you think you'll do it again?
Probably not, but let's see what happens in Minecraft 2.
Chicken jockey! I was in a screening on the opening weekend, not knowing that this was a phenomenon.
Yes.
There with my daughter Ruby, and the place just erupted. Like Marvel fans seeing multiple Spider-Men. It was so fun.
You had no idea.
I had no idea what was happening. I didn't know what was going on, who was what and what was where, but damn, I wish I had popcorn.
But don't you think as soon as the fun is sanctioned, it's kind of less fun?
Yeah, but then let's torch the place, taking his My 20-year-old nephew went with his mates and they took bottles of Prosecco and popped them and there's champagne flowing everywhere. I say go for it. This is great.
I love the passion, but if I was there, I'd hate it. I'd hate it.
And a small zombie child and enjoy.
The days are cooling and the leaves are falling, so if you need a pick-me-up, I've got some good news. It is time for some gale force fun with our favourite weekend weather girl at Satellite, Susie!
Thank you. Well, my first forecast is very local. Sunny Tunny's back. And it's looking like blue skies from here on in. Outside the studio, you ask? Probably the same, but let's take a look anyway. First to Sydney, which is giving very Susan Yusuf in the 90s, acting like so random. Fog, rain, sun, storms. Get it together, you hot mess. There will be occasional thunder rumbling, but if you experience the clap, please go and see a doctor. Yeah. Adelaide, it's going to be cloudy with a chance of more balls, a high chance. 21 and shady, which was so someone's type in uni. Hayden, if you're watching, I know that you stole my housemate's Hootie and the Blowfish CD. Melbourne, your extended summer is officially over. Or is it? We get it, Melbourne. You have range, you're dark and moody, but you could play the lead in a rom-com, so good for you. Well, like Albo, I'll be furious if the Storm beat the Bunnies tonight, but you're 18 on Sunday, so you're old enough to drink and vote, ideally not in that order, but what do I know, Melbourne? You do you. Go Bunnies! Snap, Hobart, you're matching Melbourne, 18 on Saturday, which means you'll probably move to the mainland because you're old enough to appreciate Mona, but still young enough to chuck a shopping trolley into the dill. Perth's looking delightful with 23 degrees. For more, here's our local expert.
It'll be warm.
Sorry, he's 3 hours behind. Brisbane hits a frigid 26 and 28. Brr, Brisbane. Finally, Darwin's 32 and ready to rock, putting all of the knobs up to 11. I can't remember putting that in the auto cue, but here we are. It's perfect Crocs and socks weather, but just lose the socks. Who are you, Georgie Tunney on holiday?
Hey, what?
Nope, OK, let's move on before the clouds roll in. That's the weekend weather, or is it? Literally, we never know.
Yeah.
Take a break. We're going to take a breath ourselves. We'll be back with more after this. Welcome back. Our next guest is continuing the legacy of his late great father. For decades, Dr. Michael Mosley shared his passion for health with the world, putting his body and mind on the line in the name of science.
I've been puffing away conscientiously for 4 weeks. So what has it been doing to me?
Yeah, I definitely feel something going on there.
But it was his work on diabetes that gained global attention, creating the revolutionary 5-2 diet and against all odds, ridding himself of the disease.
To actually reverse type 2 diabetes, all you need to do is lose 1 gram of fat from your pancreas, and that's what I did.
Tragically, in June last year, his life was cut short. The world left in shock at his sudden death, aged just 67.
A curious investigator, a hero, and quite simply, a very kind man. That's how Dr. Michael Mosley has been described by friends and colleagues.
Now his son Jack is picking up the Mosley mantle.
It's so important to have the right nutritional and lifestyle strategy.
Less than a year on from his dad's passing, Jack has his own debut book, Food Noise, helping people navigate the new world of weight loss drugs.
Would you please welcome Dr. Jack Mosley?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, Dr. Jack, I mean, we saw some images there of your dad, and I have to admit, I get taken aback when I see him. So just before we get to the book, a little check-in. How are you and your family doing?
I think it's been a really tough time for the whole family. And the outpouring of grief when he did pass away, it really blew us away. So many people who had never met him felt like they'd lost a friend. And I think he was just such an inspiration to so many millions of people. I just wanted to say thank you for all the letters and all the calls, all the emails and messages. It's been, it's really made a difference. I think one positive I can take from the whole thing, and my family can, is I think it's brought us closer as a family.
And obviously you're following in his footsteps, but how would you describe his influence on you? We heard about other people, but what about you?
Yeah. So both my parents met at medical school, so I was surrounded by medical people, medical professionals growing up. He was a massive influence on me, and they both, I think they inspired me to do medicine, and especially to follow down that path of trying to help people live healthier lives. He empowered so many people to change their dietary habits, and through his podcast as well, Just One Thing, change tiny habits to make a real difference. And I want to continue that mission. So that's why Food Noise is full of evidence-based, practical insights that people can really use to take back control of their health.
Well, when I heard that your book title was Food Noise, I thought, finally, because I have the world's loudest digestive system. Like, I have left libraries because it sounds like cartoon creaking doors. Do you address any of that in the book, or?
It's a slightly different type of food noise. So food noise, I'll just explain the term. So it relates to your cravings, your internal food monologue, that distracting voice that tells you to grab that, that bar of chocolate from the petrol station, the bag of crisps at the end of a stressful day at work, or the extra slice of cake. What is with these new weight loss drugs? The reason the term, I think, has brought so much traction is that these weight loss drugs are so effective at quietening that food noise, at silencing it, not just reducing your appetite. So the way I like to think of them is like a pair of noise-cancelling headphones. So you put them on, you can go about your day, you are less distracted by that thought of the next meal. But many people eventually do take them off and stop the drugs, and that food noise can come rushing back with a vengeance. So you really need to think about what you're eating and make sure you're eating filling, nutritious food while you are thinking about taking the medications.
Do you think those medications are good or bad?
It's a very difficult one, and there are benefits. I mean, firstly, they massively reduce your appetite. In the studies, people have lost huge amounts of weight, but there are significant risks, including muscle loss, and I have concerns of malnutrition as well. So I think you need the right nutritional strategy if you are thinking of taking the medication. But the book Food Noise is about understanding your cravings, whether or not you are on the medications, or it's just about kind of empowering people to live healthy lives.
Oh, well, it makes a lot of sense. And Jack's book, Food Noise, is out now. Head to our website for all of the details. And Dr. Jack Mosley, thank you so much for your time. We so appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You're watching The Project. We'll be right back. Welcome on The Jib. This is The Project.
Well, today across Australia and abroad, we honoured the hundreds of thousands of Aussies who've dedicated their lives to serving our nation.
In the pre-dawn light.
At this hour, upon the 25th of April in 1915, ANZAC became one of the immortal names in history.
Across the country, tens of thousands gathered to remember the fallen.
Australians, many of whom were barely out of their teenage years, demonstrated extraordinary resilience and determination in the face of overwhelming adversity.
Just like my own sons, they had their whole lives ahead of them. If dark days should come again,
I am confident that their generation and those who follow will do what is required.
This year marks 110 years since the ANZACs landed on the Gallipoli Peninsula. More than 8,000 Australian soldiers died before the force was evacuated.
As the dawn is even now about to pierce the night, so let their memory inspire us to work for the coming new light into the dark places of the world.
But in Melbourne, under the cloak of darkness, as Bunurong elder Uncle Mark Brown delivered a welcome to country,
I'm here to welcome everybody to my father's country.
The stillness was pierced.
Beautiful Bunurong country. We pay our acknowledgements and we pay our respects.
The heckles and jeers soon drowned out by the record 50,000 strong crowd. Self-confessed neo-Nazi Jacob Hersant later led away by police.
I absolutely condemn this behaviour.
We have a proud Indigenous heritage in this country, and we should always remind ourselves that Indigenous Australians played a very significant part, and still do today, in the ranks of the Australian Defence Force.
This was an act of low cowardice on a day when we honour courage and sacrifice.
More than 1.5 million Australians have served in wars and peace operations.
I had to leave my son to go to Afghanistan, and it was really hard. Some of us don't come back all right.
103,000 soldiers have lost their lives.
There are the memories for me are of my friends in war. I think about my mates I lost overseas and my mates that I lost to suicide.
Undimmed by the actions of a few, today the spirit of ANZAC shone bright.
Commemoration can inspire Australia's potential to be brave and extraordinary. What happened here 110 years ago is a constant call not to arms, but to peace. And that is why we will remember them, lest we forget.
It is a very special day for a lot of people. My grandfather was a prisoner of war, taken in Crete, taken to Germany and spent 4 years in a prison camp there, and didn't really want to talk about it much when he came back. My other grandfather was in Borneo, never once mentioned it in all the years that I knew him. So, yeah, there's a lot of those scars that come back, but it means a lot that we have a day like today that is embraced so much by so many in the country.
And you can feel the comfort that our vets get from when they march and where they are there with their brethren. And you can just, you feel it, even if you haven't been personally affected by it or you don't have memories of sending your loved ones off to war. And hopefully we never do in this country again, but it's just one of those moments that's incredibly special. And I think that for anyone who even considers the people that interrupted the service this morning, how embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. Get a grip, get a life.
It's disgusting.
Look, politicians often like to say the federal budget should be treated like the household budget. So what percentage of your household budget do you spend on defence? Huh? Are you purchasing drones? Tanks, submarines, or lasers for the sharks in the moat around your house? Whatever it is, Gina Reinhart reckons you should be spending more.
Okay.
It is my belief we urgently need to do more to defend Australians.
As everyday Australians were reflecting on the past, the wealthiest Australian was making a pitch for the future. A future with more
smart sea mines, or drones, Israeli-style drones, accordingly.
And she has a specific figure in mind.
Boosting our budget to 5% of GDP.
5% might not sound like a lot, but our current defence budget is just above 2%, which adds up to $56 billion annually. If the GDP doesn't change, and we think it will, 5% would push it up to around $140 billion per year.
So I think it's a little bit odd for Gina Reinhart to call for a 5% increase in defence funding. I think for anyone to articulate what the level of defence spending needs to be, they need to highlight where the gaps are and what it needs to be spent on.
Current defence spending is projected to rise to 2.3% over the next decade. Peter Dutton this week said the coalition would boost it to 3% over the same period, which would make it more expensive than both the NDIS and the age pension.
5% 5% of GDP like Europe is moving towards.
So that's not actually the case. Europe is not moving towards 5% of GDP spending. In the last couple of years, more NATO countries have increased their spending. But nobody in Europe, with the exception of Ukraine and Russia, is above 5% of GDP.
Recent figures show only 10 countries globally spend 5% or more, and most of those are mired in war or conflict. The last time Australia was at 5% was during the Korean War more than 70 years ago. Reinhardt is yet to reveal where the 5% figure has come from. But
I'm also going to ask all NATO nations to increase defence spending to 5% of GDP.
Look, Gina Reinhardt is a very successful businesswoman. If she wants to put more money into defence, then I thoroughly support that, but I'm not sure where this 5% is going to come from.
Gina hasn't yet promised to kick in a few quid, but she has promised she's not done talking about it.
I have so much more to say on this, but at another time.
So instead, let's get Ian McPhedran, who's a defence writer and former war correspondent. Do we need to increase our spending to 5%? What do you reckon?
No, in a word, it would be ridiculous. I mean, 5% is way out of the ballpark, and it comes from someone in private industry who's very close to the Trump administration and who really has no idea, I suspect, about the actualities of defence spending. I mean, we spend just over 2 at the moment. Both sides of politics have got a plan to increase it to 2.3 and 2.5. When we get to 3 in another 20 years, it'll be a very high figure. And, in the meantime, I've spent 25 years watching the Defence Department waste hundreds of millions of dollars. So there's a lot of work to be done if you're going to give them more money.
Ian, you say ridiculous, but let's just hypothesise a little bit here, because if we did take Gina Reinhardt's advice, where would that money actually need to come from, first of all? And what would society even look like with a military that size?
That's a good question. Obviously, there are 3 choices. You increase taxes, you cut spending, or you borrow more money. Those are the simple facts. Now, I don't think Gina Reinhardt would be very keen on increasing taxes, and I think she'd probably be happy for the government to be cutting some money from social security and health, but I don't think the rest of the community would be happy with that. So that's a political problem. And of course, borrowing money simply adds to the debt and the amount of interest that our children and grandchildren have to repay. She's referred to things like missile defence and iron domes and these sorts of things, but that's when you've got an enemy active 20 kilometres away firing missiles at you. We don't have any enemy within Kui who's looking to fire missiles at us. It's just a bit silly, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what's interesting about this, because no one else seems to be suggesting we spend anywhere near this amount. So what's her motivation, do you think?
Well, I just think that she's plucked a figure out of the air. I think she's just trying to, get the political game fired up during an election campaign. And I don't know whether she thinks that her friend Peter Dutton will, take any advice from her on defence spending. But I know that the Labor government certainly won't. And the idea that you would increase to 5% would be something that would really need to have a serious strategic reason. In other words, we'd have to have an enemy basically stating that they had aims to attack us or to take over part of Australia. And that's just not going to happen in the near term. And, the strategists all say, we're living in the most uncertain time since World War II. Well, what does that mean? Do we want to help America if, China attacks Taiwan? Or do we think China's going to attack us? It's really kind of fanciful in many ways.
Well, Ian, thank you very much for some much-needed clarity, and thank you for your time.
No trouble at all. Thank you.
Well, a deep dive into the origin of the ANZAC biscuit has turned up some surprising information. Apparently, today's recipe is missing a unique ingredient.
Human flesh.
What's believed, stand by, what's believed to be the earliest dated recipe, which was in 1916, has been uncovered. It includes a hefty tablespoon of, there it is, ginger. Historians want the search to continue, believing there is an even older recipe out there.
It was made with rocks and mud.
Yeah.
Georgie Tunney, you have a theory, as you often do.
I do, because the recipe for this ANZAC biscuit is called ginger ANZAC biscuits. So obviously there has to be an older recipe, because otherwise it would just be called ANZAC biscuit. Like, you can't have a ginger ANZAC of something that doesn't already exist. Anyway, that's me just solving the problems of the world. I actually think this would be a delicious addition to the ANZAC biscuit.
Ginger ANZAC biscuit, great stripper name for me.
Do you think?
Yep.
Would you be chewy or crunchy?
Ooh.
Anyway.
Lasts a lot longer than you'd expect to.
More project coming up after this. This is the project. Welcome back.
There it is, Oasis fans. Your last chance to Steve Bradbury your way into winning the trip of a lifetime take package. This week on the project, are you the ultimate Oasis fan? Before they land in Australia for their stadium tour, we're giving you and a friend the chance to see the Gallagher brothers in London or Manchester. All you have to do is watch the project, grab the code word, and enter at 10play.com.au/win.
Yes. Whoa. Here we go.
Here it is, you ginger biscuits. Your code word is, I'm going to say it's Noel.
Noel.
Yes, Oasis.
Noel.
Early for Christmas.
Fans of Christmas.
Love Christmas.
They love it. Oh, we're getting word? No.
No, that would make more sense. That would make more sense.
Okay,
And remember, every new word is a new chance to win, except that might be the last word, so it's your last chance to win.
Get to our website. Now, in other news, former Victorian Premier Dan Andrews' hopes of hitting the golf course have been shattered. He's been booted out of a prestigious golf club after just 1 week. Members were reportedly furious that his billionaire friend had snuck him onto a membership list. The ferocious backlash comes from lingering anger on the Mornington Peninsula over Dan's super strict COVID lockdowns. And it seems partying has an official age limit. Researchers have been tracking the health of a group of people born in 1959. As a result, they've discovered that 36 is the age smoking, heavy drinking and lack of exercise start taking their toll on the health. The study didn't include vaping, so the age could be different for younger generations.
At 51, that really worries me, if I wasn't so drunk right now.
Yeah. This to me seems 36. I've got a couple of years before I get there, but I just think that I hit this mark way earlier, like maybe 26. It's like, for me, it's your ability to bounce back right after a big night out.
Yeah.
That was gone at like 26 and a day old. Yeah.
I wonder what it's going to be like 36. I'm so curious. Will I still be partying? Hard to tell.
Maybe.
Well, our next guest describes herself as having one of the most inappropriate voices of our time, and Australia is about to find out why.
Hello, my little geezer lads.
Jameela Jamil is the brash British pop culture queen.
I knew it! Do you want some cheese? I've got some up my bum. I've got some sort of a yoghurt for you.
An acting, presenting, writing, model, DJ, there's not a corner of the creative world she hasn't touched.
Our story begins when I ran into Robbie Williams, Heidi Klum and the remaining members of Fifth Harmony at the Dolce & Gabbana Spring Show.
But 16 years in the limelight has exposed her to some seriously toxic behaviour.
It's on me not to ever gain any weight, otherwise I will be shamed and that will be my fault. It is on me to make sure that my legs are triple crossed, otherwise a photographer who's aimed at my crotch will get the shot and that will be my fault.
Jameela has turned the toxicity on its head. First with I Weigh, a podcast and inclusive online community where high-profile players bear all.
I mean, a guy grabbed my chest once in the playground in front of all his friends.
And now, in a brand new tour, An Evening with Jameela.
Go ahead, do your worst.
And this evening, we get her all to ourselves. Please welcome Jameela Jamil. We are excited. Jameela, we mentioned it before. You're an actor / presenter / writer / teacher / former DJ, basically anything you want to be. Are you the ultimate slashy?
I mean, I think I'm one of many, but I'm going for gold. I don't know what I'm going to do next. Maybe, I don't know, rap? No, I won't do rap, don't worry. But yeah, I like to just keep it. I like to stay on my toes. I like to run at failure, basically.
Well, you have lived what feels like a million different lives. How are you going to fit all of that into just one live show?
Well, I'm not trying to make this show about me. This is not my life story. This is a huge, very open forum for the public to come and ask me their questions. And I have excellent hosts asking me questions about things that I feel and think and have learned about society, and it's me posing difficult and inconvenient questions to the audience as to why we do the things that we do. And so it's going to be funny and irreverent, but it's also going to be problematic and chaotic, which is how I would probably describe all of my online presence.
So you actually want the audience to say all the things that usually we wouldn't say, the things that we shouldn't say. What are some of the things that you've been hearing a lot at the moment?
Nothing that I can repeat on this channel right now, but I think it's the heavier conversations about our society, and us, instead of just moaning about it and behaving in a tribal superior way, it's us figuring out how we actually fix these problems, where they actually come from, and how we as a society can make things better. And like I said, I'm one for inconvenient truths, and I like challenging my audience, and I cannot stop being a controversial person. It's not on purpose, it's just natural, but I hope to shake things up. Shirt, as we would call it on The Good Place. I like to shake shirt up. And I want people to walk away remembering it as a night that they felt challenged rather than just coddled.
Yes. Well, if you're encouraging audiences not to censor themselves, I guess, for want of a better word, something I've always admired about you is that when you regret some of your chaotic online presence, as you phrase it, you always seem to be able to come up with exactly the right thing to say. Just how do you do that? What's the best way to make a past wrong right when you're responsible?
I actually don't think I always come up with the right thing to say. I think I've just learned the ways of a straight white man. I think straight white men have a very healthy attitude towards their own failure or their own moments of mediocrity, and I don't mean that in a rude way. And I have my own moments of failure and mediocrity. And women... No, but I mean that women often feel like we have to be perfect, and then we disappear ourselves. We absent ourselves from opportunities because we've made a mistake. And I think the way that I approach things is to go, okay, I'm sorry, I messed up. When you know better, you do better. And now, as my straight white male brothers do, I'm going to carry on and prove with my behaviour that I've changed. And I think that is the healthiest approach. And so, you know, I'm the ghost of cancellations past. I just keep coming back like a new COVID variant. And that, for me, has worked out and has led to great opportunity, not just in work, but also in growth as a person. I think I'm less of a, you know, oh God, yeah, I'm not going to say that word, but I don't know, twat?
Yeah, twat's good. Twat's good. Twat works.
Yeah. Well, there is a lot of chat about masculinity at the moment. Obviously, Adolescence, the show from Britain, is huge, and there is a lot of discussion around that. Do you think there is hope for the future in this conversation, and do you think that hope is called Pedro Pascal?
I do think Pedro Pascal is a great hope because of how much women are thirsting after him and lusting after him, and Benny Blanco and Timothée Chalamet and all these very kind, sensitive men. I think it's not about bashing the men who do things that hurt women. I think it's about uplifting the men who are sensitive and who are cool and who are kind, and showing boys and men that this is where the girls are going, in this direction, because ultimately that's what a lot of them would like. And so I think it's about less of the bashing and more of the uplifting and leveraging of the really great men in our society, not just the famous ones, but the ones who make this world a better place, the ones who have built this world with their bare hands. Let's talk about those men rather than the ones who are single and 50 and arguing with 18-year-old sex workers on their podcast because they can't manage a woman their own age. So we just don't need to talk about them anymore. We need to focus on great men. And there are many of them. I'm dating one of them and have been for 11 years. So I have a lot of love for men. I want to bring men and women together. And the way to do that, I think, is with more love than what we're seeing now between the two genders.
Well, in the words of The Good Place, fork yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank fork we found a way to say that. Suck my deck was the real love.
And that's coming from a real twat as well. If you'd like details on Jameela's tour, you can head to our website. Please thank Jameela Jamil.
Oh, what a superstar. You're watching The Project. We'll be right back.
Steve Vizard is a showbiz legend, but his latest project may take some fans by surprise. In a new book, Nation, Memory, Myth, he brings a fresh perspective to Gallipoli and Anzac Day and how it has shaped us as a country. Just so happens he's right here. Please welcome, Steve Vizard!
Thank you. You had me at Showbiz Legend. Can we do that again? That was terrific.
I love it when you get distracted by your own footage.
I was looking and thinking, gee, that was a long time ago now, wasn't it?
What's George Danikian doing there? So when it comes to an idea of covering Anzac Day, I wouldn't have thought from a guy like yourself, known for your comedy, that this would be your go-to.
Well, it's funny you should say that. You only had to look at today. You see those dawn services, you see all of that, 100,000 people at the G. That service happens and they're all ready to scream and yell. They've got pies in their hands and they've got beer. They're ready to go. But you can hear a pin drop. And I became fascinated with what is it that has this hold over the nation. And it started when I was tiny. I was 12 and I had a teacher called Mr. Potts. And Mr. Potts, this shows you how old I am. Mr. Potts was so old. He was in the First World War. So I had a teacher as a 12-year-old. Wow. He looked like Gandalf the Grey without the beard. And he'd come in, it'd take him 20 minutes to come through the door and hang his coat on the back of the chair. And one time he actually fell asleep before he started. But he would tell us about getting troop ships. He was 18 when he enlisted. He would tell us about going all the way to Europe, fighting on the front, the rats, seeing his mates die. And he was only 6 years older than us. We were 12, he was 18. And he would give us tips. He'd say, and he was supposed to be a maths teacher. We didn't learn any maths, which explains a lot of my life. But he would tell us, he'd say, boys, if you ever see mustard gas coming toward you, like we're going to see mustard gas, he'd say, it's yellow and you can't get to your mask. He said, urinate in a hanky. Okay. And then put that on your mouth because that'll neutralise the gas. And for years, I wandered around with a full bladder and a hanky in my pocket, sort of just
good to be
waiting, ready to go. So I became fascinated with, not with that, I became fascinated with the idea of what is it about, these commemorations, that story in particular, where it was a retreat, we achieved nothing, it wouldn't have changed the outcome of the war one day.
Not good
it was
for
a
us at
complete
all.
failure in every sense, but that story's celebrated. So what is it about that story? So what I've written about, what I've looked at, is that the anchor event of Gallipoli as history is fundamentally different from that of a founding national myth. And all nations have myths that are sacred. Every nation does. Waterloo or, the Bastille, storming of the Bastille, whatever. And these are sacred myths that are kind of compressions of national identity. And you look in those stories, they're sacred stories, and it tells you who we are as a people, where we belong and what we do.
So what is it then that is different about the Anzac myth?
Every myth, I'll tell you what's common first. All myths that have such a power are founded on a trauma. And the First World War for Australia was a near extinction event. Of our population of 4 million, 400,000 people enlisted. 400,000 out of 4 million. Wow. And of that, 65,000 died. 152,000 were killed. So that's 220 out of 400,000 either killed or injured. And that's not taking into account psychological trauma because they didn't measure that in those days.
They were all kids. None of them knew what they were in for. It was a big adventure. They had no idea.
No idea. So and then you could walk down any street, any place, knock on a door, they'd lost someone, a mother, they're all grieving. So what a myth does, it's a way of processing this trauma, of making sense of chaos, of trying to say, out of all this meaninglessness, there was a purpose, there is a sense of destiny. And that is the value of a national myth. At its heart, it makes some purpose out of trauma. And we can't reimagine what that trauma was at the time. So when we look at ANZAC today, we're not just celebrating or commemorating what happened amongst current people serving. We're remembering the foundations of our nation when those people gave so much to create the nation that we have today. And it's kind of true of every nation. And embedded in that myth is one thing. It's the ethos. All myths have it. It's the ethos of the people. And for us, we call it the ANZAC spirit. And it's right in the heart of the myth.
Well, you're so passionate about it. And, I mean, this book is incredible. The research in it is insane just in itself. Everyone
Thank
what you have done with this. In terms of your career, because it is so wide-spanning, like, where does this sit? What are you proudest of?
I put it right up there with my kids' book, Here Comes Grandpa.
Wow.
Quite a length you've
It
taken.
is. The last time I said here, I was talking about a kid's book that I've written for my
Not as many
grandkids.
pictures in this one.
Not as many pictures. And you don't want to get them mixed up.
No.
You certainly don't want to turn them up at the Shrine of Remembrance and say, Grandpa makes strange sounds when he walks.
Yeah. Or better yet, kids, time for bed.
Time for bed.
Another chapter first.
That's right.
Yeah.
The trauma of Gallipoli.
Yeah.
No. I actually, they're all different things, aren't they? Doing a Tonight Show, you know.
Also, Gold Logies are pretty good too. Let's not.
That's right.
Well done, you. I knew we could get that in.
Gotta remind everybody, you know.
Well, find out for yourselves just how amazing this is. Nation Memory Myth is available now, and it is an incredible read, and I think you're all going to learn to see things maybe a little bit differently. Would you please thank Steve Isaac?
That's it for tonight. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Susie. Stick around for Airborne, and we'll see you 6 o'clock for the Sunday Project. Happy Anzac Day. Have a good weekend.